I think they're going to check Pineda. Remember, against the Red Sox, he had what looked like pine tar in his hand. Now they're checking his back. And they're throwing him out of the game.
Most athletes train 24/7 to perfect their craft, but others, well, some of them just join in a 26-mile marathon in the last mile and win because, well, they just aren't good enough, as you will see in today's video. Number 10. After winning a gold medal in the 2012 London Olympics, Cameron Vanderburgh admitted to cheating on the 100-meter breaststroke. The South African elite swimmer admitted to taking 3 dolphin kicks during the race, in which only 1 was allowed. The move is completely illegal in the Olympics and would have earned him a disqualification on the spot if he had been caught. In the replays, we clearly see Cameron taking 3 kicks instead of 1 during the race. He told the news source Sydney Morning Herald that he did in fact cheat by taking extra kicks, but defends himself by insisting he's not the only one. If you're not doing it, you're falling behind, he said. It's not obviously, shall we say, the moral thing to do, but I'm not willing to sacrifice my personal performance and 4 years of hard work for someone that is willing to do it and get away with it. After his race, Vanderburgh was able to get away with cheating due to the fact that there was no underwater review in swimming races. Overall, while he did cheat in an Olympic race, he did end up confessing for what he did wrong, thus leading to his name being thrown around in a bad way. But when you think about it, did he really need to go the extra mile to cheat on this race? I mean, he probably could have won without the extra kicks. Number 9. Based out of Canada, Ben Johnson was unique in the sense that not many Canadians have become Olympic runners. In 1988, Johnson won 2 bronze medals and a gold during the 100-meter dash of the Olympics, setting the record for the fastest 100-meter dash in the 1988 Summer Olympics. The shot was fired as the racers took off towards the finish line. In a whopping 9.79 seconds, Ben had completed the dash, and people are in shock for sure. But how did he get this crazy time? Well, it turns out he wasn't the cleanest of runners. Just 24 hours after the Olympic Games had ended for the year, Johnson was taken in for a drug test to see if he had taken any substances to boost his performance. Sure enough, he ended up failing the tests, leading to more conclusions. Well, there wasn't anything the runner could do here on out, and he had admitted to taking different substances in order to boost his running speed. And finally, Ben was stripped of his gold medal and eventually disqualified from all Olympic events. Number 8. When you associate cheating with a professional sport, you'd expect the cheating to take place in order for the competitor to gain an advantage and win, right? Well, for Wang and Yu, they cheated to lose. It all started when the badminton duo attempted to throw a game versus South Koreans at the London Olympic Games in 2012 in order to get an easier next round game. Smart, right? Well, not really. Shortly after their attempted cheating to lose, the South Korean team of Kim and Jung followed along, trying to lose as well in order to get an easier matchup for the next round. Well, this all came back to haunt them, as not only were Wang and Yu disqualified, but all 4 of the competitors as well. Cheaters never win, but in this instance, the cheaters weren't trying to win. So does that even make them cheaters? This world may never know. Number 7. In the spring of 2001, Barry Bonds began setting records on the baseball field, passing Mark McGwire's home run record in just his first few years of playing in the professional league. He began to get bombarded with questions about how he became so good, what it took to get where he is, etc. After some investigation and tests, it was discovered that Bonds had been using steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs ever since the season of 1998. However, despite several tests and proof of use, Bonds denied all these allegations and tried to play it off as if he hadn't used steroids or any performance-enhancing substances. From the evidence, however, it was clear that Bonds was lying. And although he continued to play in the MLB for years, his case still goes down as one of the biggest cheating scandals in sports history. Interestingly enough, his stats have yet to be taken down from the record books, and he is still a candidate for the MLB Hall of Fame. Many argue that his career wouldn't have been much different if he hadn't used the drugs, as he already was one of the best baseball players of his time. But in the end, he did cheat, so let us know in the comments if you think he should still be allowed to be in the Hall of Fame. Number 6. Perhaps one of the most well-known cheating scandals in sports history in the US took place in 2014 by NFL star Tom Brady. Known as the Deflategate scandal, Tom Brady and his teammates had allegedly deflated several footballs during the AFL finals in order to get an advantage and eventually win the game. The investigation began in January 2015 and was not resolved until July 2016 after numerous court rulings, press conferences, and interviews from coaches, players, and officials. Eventually, things were settled and Tom Brady was accused of committing this cheating scandal. Deflating the ball does give a team an advantage. Scientist Anissa Ramirez, the author of Newton's Football, told NPR. Particularly during that game, which was very rainy, it's hard to get a hold of the ball. It's hard to catch the ball. So by making it a little bit softer, it's easier to catch the ball. And thus Tom Brady had made it easier for his team to win, which made for one of the shadiest scandals in sporting history. Number 5. The 7-time Tour de France winner and cancer survivor, Lance Armstrong was accused of using illegal substances during his time in the Olympic Games. For most of his career, Lance was kind of known as the man who had something to hide behind his success, yet nobody thought much of it. Considering biking is not a sport that lures in many cheaters, no cases were opened until 2006 when an official investigation was made following the many wins and somewhat mysterious success of Lance. However, nothing was found and he was let loose. Fast forward to 2012 when Lance was once again put on the spotlight for seemingly shady wins, except this time he had been caught using the drug EPO. At first, he didn't admit the drug use, trying to back his claim up all that he could, but finally in 2013, Armstrong admitted to using illegal substance. From then on, he was stripped of 7 gold medals he had won during the Olympic Games and was disqualified from any future events. Well, this turned out to be a sad story of a once highly respected cyclist. Number 4. This one is definitely a bit different, as you will shortly find out. Juhl was a professional shooter who competed in many Olympic events. He was known for his sharp precision and steady hands while firing at the target. Well, it turns out that Hans wasn't exactly the sharpest, most accurate tool in the shed, as he later admitted to drinking a few drinks before going out on the range and competing in order to calm his nerves. Now, what makes this one interesting is that you would think drinking would affect how you shoot and ultimately make you worse. But in Hans' case, he was doing it to calm his nerves and not get shaky hands while shooting. Good idea, but definitely not one to try out in the Olympics. I mean, the words alcohol and firearm are alarming in themselves, so I'm not sure officials were very disappointed to find out Hans was under the influence during his events. After testing positive to having very large amount of alcohol within his system, Hans later admitted that he had been competing under the influence of a couple of beers. Well, he ultimately had to return the bronze medal he had won and was disqualified from any other events. Number 3. To those waiting at the finish line, Rosie must have appeared to be the fittest and best Boston Marathon runner to ever compete in the games. On April 21st, 1980, Rosie Ruiz finished first place in the Boston Marathon and finished in a near record-breaking time, just under 2.5 hours. But things were a bit fishy immediately after she crossed the finish line. Officials noticed the runner was not sweating. Not only this, but her hair stayed in perfect place and her face was hardly flushed after the 26-mile race. Her excuse was that she took breaks to catch her breath during the race. However, a bit later, after winning the race at such fast speeds, it was discovered that Rosie had not ran the race at all. Instead, she waited on the sidelines for a couple hours and finished off at a total running distance of 1 mile. Considering the officials couldn't see the runners for 25 miles of the race, it wasn't too hard to do. Luckily, she was caught for this cheating scandal and had her medal revoked. I mean, at least she didn't take any illegal substances, but to think she didn't even compete and still won is almost worse. Number 2. Hansie Cronje was a South African cricket player who served as the captain of the South African team before his cheating scandal was uncovered. In 1996, he was introduced to Indian bookmaker Mukesh Gupta. Well, this started a long, shady relationship between the two, where Gupta bribed over $65,000 worth of games to throw. Well, this worked for a bit until police officials and others caught on to the act, and an investigation took place. Cronje began denying all the claims, stating he had made no money from losing and hadn't talked to anybody about throwing the cricket matches. However, things got even more shady as Cronje continued to lose. Eventually, it was confirmed that Gupta had been paying Cronje for losing these games, and the two were banned from cricket for life. Interestingly, after this case was resolved, more information got revealed involving even more people in cricket match fixing scandals. This made Cronje's scandal one of the biggest in all of sports history. Now for our honorable mention, we have the New York Yankees pitcher Michael Pinda. On April 23, 2014, the pitcher Michael Pinda was given a 10-game suspension after umpires found pine tar on his neck while he was on the mound. The weather conditions in Fenway Park were less than ideal that night, with temperatures in the high 40s 1940s with a heavy wind chill. Claiming he was unable to feel the ball due to how cold it was, Pinda placed pine tar on his neck so he could have a better grip on the ball. It didn't take long for umpires to realize that something was up. Upon visiting the mound, they found the substance on Pinda's neck. Pinda was given a 10-game suspension as his actions were a direct violation of the major leagues. Pinda claimed he was only using the tar because he was worried about hitting one of the Sox batters, but these claims were dismissed and he was given his suspension. Now finally, number 1. Perhaps the most clever but worst cheating scandal in sports history took place between two twin Olympic long jump athletes, Madeleine and Margaret. Back in 1984, Puerto Rico sent 50 people to the Olympic Games, and among those 50 was Madeleine. Madeleine qualified for 2 events, the long jump and the women's 4x400 meter relay. When she arrived in LA, the athlete finished 21st in the qualifying round of the long jump competition, but she also suffered an injury which prevented Madeleine from competing anymore. Not wanting to let the team down, she decided to have her twin sister jump in and pretend to be Madeleine herself. On August 10th, Margaret actually helped Puerto Rico qualify for the final, but a journalist busted the two and uncovered who was really competing. Well, word eventually got out and the entire Puerto Rican team was disqualified. Madeleine and Margaret were not invited back to any future Olympic events. If you guys enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and we'll catch you next time on Nexus's next video.